Well, hello, good people and Eagle fans. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Jobu Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. It is a slow day, of course, because the Cowboys are not practicing today, having a well-deserved day off. At least, hopefully, nobody gets hurt today on their off day. Let's hope for that. Although we did find out that Ceylon Carson had hyperextended his leg. We found that out this morning, so maybe that doesn't actually hold the case. One thing, one thing before I get to Jalen Hurts, we ended up getting Ferguson's deal done a couple days ago, which seemed kind of interesting because they were talking about Isaiah Likely, that the Ravens were closing in. This is at least Slick Ricky. Okay, so I don't know how much there is actually to this, because he also said that the Micah Parsons deal was closing in real close some 4 months ago. So take that with a grain of salt. But they were saying that the Isaiah Likely extension was coming, and it was likely to be higher than Ferguson's. And of course, people were going, yeah, the Cowboys did something right, because they got that contract done before others. And, if you look at the numbers, Isaiah Likely, he's a good player. He's a good player, but I'm not sure that he is, better than Ferguson if healthy. So I saw earlier today Jalen Hurts, and I didn't make that much of it because I was like, okay, so he stole from Jimmy Johnson, who technically took it from George Patton. But Jalen Hurts was asked about the heat in practice, not the game, not the game that we love. We sitting here, we talking about the heat in practice. And he said, I quote, "Fatigue makes coward of us all," which I find interesting. Very, very interesting. The last 2 days have been challenging from a heat standpoint, so everybody collectively as a group continues to push through those things. Control what you can. I think this is a good test of where we're going right now and where we desire to go. That's great. I mean, don't get me wrong. That is an incredible answer to that. That's inspiring because, like I said, allegedly George Patton originated that quote during World War II. George Patton, literally, if you watch the movie, we don't know how much of the movie is embellished, but there's a guy in the hospital, George Patton's there seeing the wounded and things and, real solemn and things. And then he comes up to this guy who sitting there with his helmet on and stuff. And he says, well, what's wrong with you? He's like, I just can't take the shelling anymore. And he's like, what? Wait, hold it. You're not injured? You're a coward. Okay, and so send him to the front. He's like, and you're either gonna go to the front and you're gonna either fight, get killed, or whatever. Hell, I ought to shoot you my damn self, or put you in front of a fire Scott, because that's the way Patton was. And he allegedly said, "Fatigue makes cowards of us all." But then, famously, I'm gonna tell you that most of y'all probably never heard of George Patton. Hell, half of you don't even know where the United States is on the globe. Okay, because we got a bunch of idiots that are going around these days. So much less who George Patton was. You don't know who George Patton was. Hell, you probably didn't know about World War II. But more recently, there was Jimmy Johnson, which is still 30 years ago. Why you gotta laugh? Why you gotta laugh? You know what? I've been doing all these videos here with Miss Tracy, okay? All right? My wife, and she's usually not sitting here listening to me doing these things. I'm glad that I make you laugh. Oh, God. Damn. Damn you, Jerry Jones. All right. I'm going to pull the clip that probably Jalen Hurts took from. He's stealing from the Cowboys. Let's go to Jimmy Johnson.
You know, I think there's a misconception about football. People think that football is for tough guys. You know, tough guys. Bull. Football rewards the guys that are in great condition.
That's right.
That's when you have fun.
That's when you have fun.
When you're kicking somebody's ass and they're sucking for win.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great coach one time says, fatigue makes cowards of us all. What if I walked up to you and said, you're a coward? You're a coward. You wouldn't like it, would you? But that's the reality of it. When you're tired, you make mistakes, you don't do what's right, and your will to win all of a sudden starts to waver just a little bit. You get tired, and all of a sudden you don't have that same fight. Fatigue makes cowards of us all of us, me included. I guarantee you, when I was on that damn TV show and I hadn't had any sleep and I hadn't had any food and bugs are biting on my ass, I wasn't a big tough guy. I'm saying, what the hell am I doing here? Fatigue makes cowards of us all. If you're in great shape, if you can run like a deer, at the end of the ball game, you're going to be smiling and having fun. And let me tell you something, guys. This is going to be the greatest time of your life. I used to sit in this same ass room. I'd look at the schedule and I'd say, God, oh, I can't wait till Oklahoma comes in here. I can't wait till Florida comes in here. I want to kick their ass. And that's what you should feel. This is why you came to Miami. That's why you wanted to be a Hurricane. But you can only do it if you're in great shape and if you're not sucking for win at the end of the game. And when you look across the way and that guy is hanging down, he is a coward. He's a coward because he's tired. Don't be tired.
Don't be tired. Tell me.
You're up, and then James Harris.
Jimmy Johnson, let me.
Don't tell me that didn't just motivate you. So yes, Jalen Hurts is stealing quotes from Jimmy Johnson. You know what? I'm sick and tired of these Eagles, man. You know what? I'm tired of their taking our shit, okay? And I'm tired of taking their shit. I'll be honest with you. But Jimmy Johnson, he is an incredible motivator. And so with this video, I'm going to give you a little bonus here. I'm going to give you a little bit of exclusive Jimmy Johnson.
You're up, and then James Harris.
Jimmy Johnson, let me first say congratulations on getting into the Hall of Fame. Watching that live on television, that raw emotion was just beautiful. I have so many questions for you. I think about the only way I could get them in is to get a cooler of beer and head out and go fishing with you.
Hi, Mark.
But leaving the University of Miami and coming to the Dallas Cowboys, and at that time they were basically broke, busted, and thoroughly disgusting to watch. Having gone from the pinnacle down to the depths, what was that like? And the second part of this question would be, I played football at JMU with Charles Haley, and knowing the character that he is and all the personalities that you had with the Cowboys, how were you able to mold them and keep them focused on the grand prize, which was winning?
Well, first of all, people look back on it and they say it was an easy decision to leave University of Miami. But we had gone through 4 straight seasons where we played a national schedule and been on national television every other week and only lost 2 regular season games. And so we had a powerhouse football team, and I knew it was going to continue that way because we had a great, group of talent. And then going to Dallas, Tom Landry is one of the greatest coaches of all time. Mm-hmm. But they had 3 straight losing seasons. They were at the bottom of the NFL at 3-13 because they just didn't have any talent. And and obviously there were some older players that helped us, in winning our Super Bowls. But a lot of it had to do with, I brought in Tony Wise, my offensive line coach, and he put together what is considered one of the greatest offensive lines in NFL history. But he did it with a free agent defensive tackle, Mark Tuinei, at left tackle. He did it with a left guard where the previous staff said get rid of him because he was too fat, Nate Newton. We took a third-round pick, 245-pound offensive guard. I asked Tony, I said, can you convert him to a center? He said, I'll make him into a center. So we moved Stepnoski to center. And then we took a seventh-round pick, Kevin Gogan, who had struggled his early years. We moved him to guard and took a third-round pick, Eric Williams, at right tackle. So, you know, those players hadn't developed, but Tony Wise was able to develop them into a great offensive line. And so, you know, the combination of having some great assistant coaches and acquiring a lot of talent with 51 trades in 5 years, we were able to win that Super Bowl. So it was a great feeling.
Thank you very much on that.
I'll follow up about Charles Haley.
Yes, he was a character.
He is a character, but he is one of my favorites. You know, Charles and I developed a great relationship after a few rocky roads there early in his career at Dallas. We had a couple of run-ins, but we really got together. You know, really, he came into my office after I had berated him a couple of times at one of the ball games. And he said, Coach, he said, if you will just get on to me one-on-one in your office, he said, I'll do anything in the world for you. I love playing for you. He said, but just don't embarrass me in front of the other players. And I said, you know, Charles, I may not always be able to do that, but I'll try. But from that time forward, we had a great relationship, and he was a big part of us winning Super Bowls.